This is the Own It Show, where we tell stories of how everyday people made ownership theirs to create extraordinary success.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Own It Show Weekly Wind Down Edition. Cheers.
Cheers. And we don't have the bottle for you today because we are in the midst of a clean out of our place up in Tremblant, but we do have a little bit of leftover wine in the fridge.
Yep.
So, but going back to our guest from this week, and really outstanding, Dave Sanderson. If you didn't listen to it, be sure to go back and watch the video from Monday, listen to the podcast. He is one of the 155 survivors of the plane crash in the Hudson back in 2009 on January 15th. And it was amazing to talk to him and listen to his story. And going back to that, ownership is your word. That's really all we have is our word. And it got me really thinking about things that people always talk about. Oh, I want to lose weight. I want to get this new job. I want to start the business. I want to have a family. I want to have a really great girlfriend or boyfriend. And we say these things, but do we truly own it? Do we truly believe it? Do we truly, are we truly willing to take the steps necessary to get there? And learning from Dave and his story of going through this plane crash, entering into 36-degree water, making sure that everybody else was safe before himself. And he was up to neck weight high in water and ultimately had to jump out of the plane that was sinking and swim to the boats that already had everybody else on them. And being able to live up to our word is something that we continually have to look ourselves in the mirror for and say, are we doing what's necessary to build that credibility with ourselves, so that when the test of time comes, when the true test comes, we've built that muscle and we can truly start to flex it and operate in the way that we want to.
One of the things that I found really interesting was the shift that he had, because pre this event, pre the plane crash, he was set up to live a true ownership lifestyle. You know, one of the things that we talked about was he was the head of security for Tony Robbins for 14 years. He had personal access to Tony Robbins. He said it in the podcast, if you heard it, something that people would pay millions of dollars to get. Not only that, but he also had an extremely strong mentor as well, who resonated in a similar mindset. And so he called it, you know, this gold that he had sitting around him. And it took an event like this to get him to start to live in that true ownership mindset and start to essentially live in alignment with his purpose. And I think that's something that really resonates, is oftentimes we wait for a big event to happen, but it does not take a big event. It takes sitting down, getting super honest with yourself and saying, I have all of this around me. Am I going to wait until I almost die in a plane crash to truly shift my mindset? Or is this something I can start to grab hold of the reins today and start living in alignment with my purpose?
And the other thing on top of that is he mentioned this a couple times, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but it's when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And he had these teachers. He had Tony Robbins at his hands for 14 years. He had the greatest mentors to him starting in 1984, but didn't utilize them, didn't use the skills, the tactics, the goal that we spoke about for something that could serve other people and help drive him in certain directions. And so that's, I think, the big eye-opening thing here is truly continuing to grow always allow yourself to come back and check yourself and live with that humility so that you can, again, take ownership by living in ownership of your word and showing up in that way. So it's not.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think he, again, definitely encourage you to go back and listen to the podcast because it's true. He's somebody who really lives in that amazing ownership mindset, and he sees every day now as a gift, and his purpose is to serve others. His purpose is to help others shift their mindset so that they are living more in alignment with themselves, and so that they're serving others, and ultimately to make this world that we have in front of us a better place. And it's, he told us a story about training and swimming across the Hudson again with the Navy SEALs this past weekend. And for him, it was an extremely powerful moment because not only was he able to go back on his own terms, but the first time he was there, it was not within his control. The first time he was in the Hudson, it wasn't his choice, and it wasn't within his control. But going back to his definition of ownership to him was his word. And he had made a promise and a commitment to himself and to others back in April to do this. And so although there's a ton of emotions that come back with revisiting this scene of the trauma, that extremely traumatic event, he lived up to his word. And in doing so, ended up having control over something that at one point in his life was completely out of his control. And the word that he used for that was resolve. He had resolved something within himself by going back and consciously choosing to do that. And I think that's something that rings true for so many of us today. And I think, when we get to a place where we do make commitments, not only to others, but more importantly to ourselves, that is certainly ownership, is living in alignment with that and being able to say, I am going to do this because of X, Y reason for me. That is the true definition of ownership.
No,
so
you're exactly right. 100%. As Elise said, you guys need to go back and watch the podcast, listen to the podcast. Be sure to like it. Be sure to subscribe. The guests coming on here have amazing stories that we can all take something from and truly empower ourselves and the impact that we can have on people around us. So like, subscribe, share it, because again, success is different.
Be different and own it. Cheers to you.